Hello?
Hey, Seth.
Can you I can hear you, but now oh, there's your video. There we
Ah,
go. How are
how
you?
are Yeah, I'm very good, man. Good to speak to
Can
you.
you hear me okay, all right?
I can hear you perfectly. You got a big record room there. Is that Craig's? Or is that
This
have
is
you moved?
great. Yeah, it's fun. It's one collection to another. It's actually he got John Aquaviva's collection. So this is like some of it. It's
That's
nice
good.
still being surrounded by records. I feel comfortable like in
Exactly,
my
exactly.
natural habitat.
Hey, listen, I've been doing these chats every week, but I mean, what a week, 10 days we've had, and I really wanted to speak to you today to just ask you how, I mean, you're back here in Los Angeles now, but how have you felt about the events of the past week?
I mean, the whole thing's been kind of crazy. I mean, as you know, I've been in Europe for 13 years, and right now is the longest I've actually stayed in America in that time, and kind of grounded by the pandemic. And now with the new issues with the riots, and actually more so, I should say the protest, um, it's been really eye opening. Not as much eye opening, but I think in many ways the Donald Trump presidency was highlighting kind of what was a long time America's secret, which was kind of racism, and now as the world's kind of been put on pause, I think without the distractions of everything else of our normal lives, the rest of the world's been able to see um, kind of what Americans have been going through, and Black Americans more than anything have been going through for such a long time. It's kind of funny. I'm reading this James Baldwin book, Notes of a Native Son, about him coming back from Paris after, in the 50s, and kind of um, also having this real realization of what it means to be a Black American, and having spent so much time in a much less racist country that was France at the time, and a much more open company, to re-examine his own birthplace. And it's kind of set me on the same path of re-examining my Blackness, and re-examining the struggles of I guess my people in the country. So it's really it's new, I guess.
Born and raised in Michigan, and then you kind of grew up on the outskirts of Detroit. Obviously, a major part of your kind of arrival into the world. But then you go and live in, as you said, you lived in Berlin, you lived in
Yeah,
Ibiza, you lived in
Berlin,
London.
London. Yeah.
Um, do you ever did you How does the kind of racism compare in terms of what you encounter in Europe
I
compared
mean,
to?
I think even in terms of my success, I mean, the fact that I'm like a suburban Black kid from outside of Detroit, and when I first started coming over to Europe, I think that I was just a lot more palatable, in many ways, from other people who came from Detroit before, who had like kind of more urban kind of language, just more urban attitude, let's say, where I was, I'm a suburban kid. I grew up in a different context and situation. And also I'm a lot more light skinned. I'm a light skinned Black kid, where I think in many ways that like helped, also by being Black, it helped separate me, but by being a kind of light skin, and also being the way I speak, and the way the kind of interest I have, I think allowed me to kind of just same way as Jamie Jones, like the Black Welsh guy. it's like,
Oh,
it's like
him.
yeah, like both of us. It was a lot easier for people to connect with us, maybe, than people who were from underground resistance, and preaching a lot of kind of um, a lot more militant Black ideas. I mean, I think for anyone to be hit with the idea of race, it's hard to talk about, I mean, from any perspective, because obviously most people don't find themselves to be racist, as many men don't find themselves to be sexist. But there are things that happen in everyday life that we may not recognize, but people are provoked or offended by, And I used to say this conversation a lot when the kind of the gender conversation was coming up, and I was like, look, being a minority of any sense or any degree is I was kind of, I mean, obviously women are the most objectified, even more than people of Black, or Black women, or or Black trans women. You're at the very top of the list of objectification. But at some point I was making this gesture that there's a lot of things that we all may do in everyday situations that society has deemed okay that really aren't, that kind of put away those that how do I say, blanket those voices or blanket those opinions. And, that's just part of society. But I think now with all these movements, people are waking up to being like, hey, that doesn't have to be the society that we live in.
Did you witness a lot of problems when you were, working in that record shop in Detroit at the beginning? I mean, Detroit is, and still is to this day, it's like, if there is a blackness in our music, it all emanates out of that city.
I mean, I think more than seeing problems, I think what you more experienced is stories, and I still experience today, from people who kind of, excuse me, who started this music and scene, speaking about even then how they were being sidelined for more kind of palatable white artists, or a lot of things about the history of the music. And it's like, I think today there was even before this a lot of talk from people behind the scenes about them not having work anymore, and then like basically the loss of identity of what was inherently a black genre being kind of whitewashed into something easier and more palatable, from techno to house music. I mean, the fact that deep house, remember, as you remember it, to us was like deep guidance, like Moody Man black house music, and now is like a term they use for Solomon, right? Which I think is very different, and it's very it's
I mean,
changed.
I was reading Resident Advisor's front page yesterday, and they asked that question. I'll ask it to you. Do you think there is a need now to rewrite the narratives of electronic music history that have been skewed in the past? Because it is unbelievable when, Moody Man, Reggie Harrell, Terrence Parker, Omar S., Mike Huckabee, Jeff Mills, Mike Banks, Robert Hood, Derek May, Chicago, Larry Heard, Farley. I mean, it's just like, where there is no white. I mean, it's like, if you weren't black, you were certainly Latino, or in Louis Vega, David Morales. It was like it all came from ethnic minorities. So
yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, even the point that like the Martinez brothers and we had started this label at one point because we were looking around and we're like, how are there so few of us left? Like I was very lucky to be taken under the arm of Omar S. when I was coming up, and obviously the Bros with their history in New York, and Louis and everyone, and Dennis Ferrer and all these people. We were like kind of the last of the Mohicans in this sense of being kind of taught by a lot of the originators. But like at some point, like the dance music scene started to, I think, be like not be a place where I guess people from our cultural heritage felt comfortable or safe. I think that was, I don't know how like just it became a thing that it was like, especially in America per se, where I think it was not reflective. I mean, in like a place that black people or people of color could even go out and like, which is kind of funny to say, but when there's less and less people of color, minorities going to events, I think less people who are minorities feel accepted or want.
Yeah, that used to be spoken about a lot back in the day. I remember, like putting together that first House Sound of Chicago Volume 1 album, and all the artists like Frankie, Marshall Jefferson, Joe Smooth. It was like that they felt that they had to go to Europe, particularly in the case of Frankie and David and Satoshi, that to find a more open-minded society and a more open-minded attitude in terms of clubbing.
That's just exactly what happened to me as well. Like I left Detroit in America because there wasn't even clubs with white people at that time to go to. Right. It was, I mean, the scene after the Chicago, the Comiskey Park incident, where disco music had died, where they kind of rolled or kind of flat pressed a lot of
that didn't help.
Yeah, that our
some of those records were terrible though.
Yeah, some of those records were very bad, but some of those records were just Marvin Gaye records, Yeah. And I think that kind of overall change and push towards urban music in the 90s, and the push away from kind of black culture and kind of a more let's say gangster version of black music, I think created a image that was very far away from dance music. I mean, I remember growing up, a lot of other black people would either think I was like gay or a drug user just because I listened to house. And I'd be like, hey guys, this is our music. Like we invented this, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, there's many different things that happened in the past that have led us to this point today. But at the same time, I think right now is the great re-examination period, like we had with gender issues or with kind of sexual orientation things that we've been looking at, you know, with gay and queer issues, as well as kind of like women's issues when we're talking about, you know, looking at the lineups, looking at these other things. I mean, I know a lot of black people were on the side. We're like, hey, all these conversations are great, but they're also leaving out, you know, black people, black queer people, or black women. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like all the conversation was all good as long as you were Caucasian or as like you were white, right? But like it wasn't really adding us into the conversation, you know. And I know a lot of people from the sidelines, we kind of were like looking around like, you know, like welcome to the party of
But I mean, 2013, you're the #1 DJ in the world, according to, you know, Resident Advisor, which was, you know, obviously a great accolade back then, you know, alongside Jamie, Martinez Brothers, as you've said. You are kind of role models. Why? What can we do? Or what, you know, why? How can we encourage more people from the black communities to kind of engage and participate in our world?
The same with as the effect we've seen with having more female DJs online lineups is like taking that, and like promoters and festivals being more more aware that like maybe instead of booking another guy, like maybe they should book a woman in their place. Like, so now all that I'm happened. Saying that happened and it worked. Big time. And it's inspired more people, because the more people you see,
yeah, that's true,
on stage, the more you understand you yourself can also take that path, right? And I think that is something that maybe hopefully when gigs do kick back off, that all festivals and promoters can also look at, you know. Like it's kind of funny, I laughed at some point, like Deck Metal had released this thing of how they promote black artists, but they had like 10 out of 190 people booked who were of color, right? It's like, that's not really the conversation we're talking about, all of which were like, you know, heritage kind of artists, you know, representation of, you know, of our people, especially considering that we really invented this music. And I think, and all those people are still out there who want to be playing. You know, I talked to Kay Alexi, I talked to there's a lot of great black artists out there who are able to be booked, but they're not being booked. There's a lot of facsimiles of people making the same music who are celebrated, where like, okay, you can book a Motor City Drum Ensemble, but you could just also book someone from Chicago, Detroit, who's going to play that music better, you know, instead of a guy from Germany playing all black music, you know. So it's just about that conversation about representation, you know. I don't think anyone on our side, there's a lot of bitterness, I think, from older artists about what's happened, you know, where there's a whole new generation of younger artists who just want a chance to be involved, you know. And like I myself have always made a point to book other black artists and try to promote them, but that's me of many, you know. And really the conversation, I think, how everyone's looking at it, even with the protests, it's like, it can't just be us screaming. It's got to be from all sides of people wanting to help.
Well, I think emphasizing the history is a really strong thing. I don't think any of those guys, though, would want to be out there in some kind of tokenism, though. You know, I think it's got to be
that's just definitely not it, you know.
Yeah, and I think, you know,
but having some work is better than no work, even if like it's kind of
absolutely.
When the Rolling Stones came back, they put on a lot of more of the old blues artists, and then had a second recoming for them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope this is a beginning. How have you felt now? Are you? I mean, you texted me a couple of weeks ago, like, Pete, I'm thinking of moving, you know, to LA. Let's come and hang out. This was like 2 weeks ago. Like the pandemic was bad enough. So have you? What are your views currently about moving to LA?
I'm definitely still going to move out here.
Right.
I think there's a lot more work to be done in America than Europe, as far as the dance music scene and as far as all of this. Like, I really think now more than ever, even if, let's say, Trump gets reelected, is a time.
Surely not.
Surely not. There's an old joke I learned when I first came into America is you can never bet on American stupidity because you can count on it. So
Yeah.
so we'll see even after all this if he makes it through. I mean, hopefully, I mean, God willing, he does not. But even if that is the case, I feel now more than ever the time for me to kind of spread the ideas that I've made, that I've been able to be privileged to, and bring them back. I mean, even when we had this great party in Detroit for a long time, the old Miami, a lot of that was taking the ideas from Europe and being like, hey, we could throw a day party, and then bringing it here, and kind of bringing these ideas of European dance culture and spreading those values to America. So I think
That would be
my
amazing. Yeah, that. There's a real role for you there,
there's
for
a role
sure.
for me here because there's not many of us who've either gone and come back, or who have had the great career as I have in dance music, who've been able to experience all that culture and then bring it back. Also, America's in this really great time of wanting to become underground and see all these ideas. And I mean, you were the first person leaving the pack, even though you're saying may go back now. But I mean, we can take turns. Jamie was here for a little bit. You were here.
Exactly.
Now I'm gonna come.
Tag team.
Tag team it. But yeah, I just feel like right now it's a really important time to use my voice as being American, because actually for a long time people have thought I was English or German.
It's the moustache.
Yeah, it's the mustache.
A World War II airline pilot.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. But
Hey,
yeah,
well,
that's yeah. Please,
sorry.
please.
And what's happening on a music front? You were making music yesterday. You told me. How's it all going on? And what's
Yeah,
happening?
I'm making a lot of stuff on my own. Kind of finished a new little single. I got my little studio set up here.
Looks good.
Kind of bedroom style again.
Is this a Troxler return or a Vision Quest return? Is this a?
Yeah, we're working on a Vision Quest thing, but also I've just kind of, I mean, I think the overall pandemic has made me relook at my life as a touring DJ and the things that make me happy, the things that I kind of really want to contribute to this culture as a whole, and what I want my legacy to be. So I'm just kind of re-examining that, and I just want to. I mean, I definitely won't go back to touring as I did before, and I just want to kind of make music and spend time with friends and be a normal person and kind of promote a culture here in America that I was lucky enough to experience in Europe. I mean, we made a whole nother album under Lost Souls of Saturn that was also a politically facing project that I'm really happy to be getting back into. Before was kind of based on the outworld influences on the degradation of our culture, and now it's focusing on an internal self and progression as a human. And I'm just kind of into making these ideas. I mean, it's been a great time being on stage for everybody, but now I just want to, kind of see what else this world has to hold for us, and create new things and experiences to inspire a new generation of people that I think I can do a lot more of, rather than being on the road all the time. So let's see.
I think it sounds very sensible.
Yeah,
I think you'd be, as I
I'm
say,
getting
you'd be
there.
very much welcome back
Step by step.
to wield your influence in America. It definitely needs it right now. I mean, what about Ibiza this year? I mean, we don't. Do you plan on going back, or?
I'm actually going back July 10th. Is a set date. We had to stay out of. I mean, it's closed until the 28th of June, and we
You
had
had your mum there with you, didn't you?
my mom. Yeah, my mom. Luckily, they got stuck in Texas when this all happened, so we've all been kind of stuck here. They're thinking about coming back to America now as well. They miss their friends, and it's just yeah, I'll still be in Europe for the summers and doing all that thing, but it's just the rest of the time of the year that I really want to spend, kind of expanding my life and expanding my time. I think it's really important for us to do so.
Okay, well, thanks for taking the time out today. Let's
Well,
keep talking about it, man, and whatever we
thank
can
you
do. I
too.
think that whole thing about the heritage of where this music came from.
Yeah, and
Let's
celebrating
keep
that heritage, and also it's about
and
showing people
encouraging the
on
next
stage.
generation.
Exactly, and through representation, showing people that this is a field for you. And I mean, the bros and I talk about us all the time, but house music's sent us around the world. It's made us leave our kind of urban situations of being lower middle class and given us the world. And we just want other kids of all minorities, Mexican, anything, to know that, hey, you can be on stage and be Brown, basically. So thanks for taking the time with us there, Pete, and
Okay.
bringing some like this experience. And I hope to
And
see you soon.
we'll sit down for a coffee next week.
Yeah, let's do that.
Not on
I'll speak to you
Instagram.
later. Yeah, on Instagram. I'll speak to you later, my
All
friend.
right,
Thank you.
thank you.
How do I get out of here?
All right, there you go. Fantastic to catch up with my friend Seth Troxler about the current situation. Have yourself a great weekend. Don't forget to check out the show later. Object on the Essential Mix, Faithless and Boys Noise on my show, and loads of great new music as well. See ya. Have a good weekend.